I call to order the regular city council meeting for today, Monday, November 17th. I would ask that everyone silence your cell phones or put them on mute, please, as we begin our meeting. And the first item is a roll call.
Blessum.
Here.
Fuller.
Here.
Hayes.
Here.
Janser.
Here.
Olson. Here. Pittner.
Here.
Samuelson.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is the mayor's report. First of all, I have a proclamation. Whereas the Minot Alliance to End Homelessness is a coalition of local nonprofit organizations dedicated to supporting the unhoused members of our community, including 38 individuals during winter months of early 2025 and 41 individuals during the summer of 2025, and working together to help solve the homelessness crisis in Minot. And whereas numerous nonprofit agencies collectively collaborate to prevent and end homelessness, serving countless local individuals and acknowledging there are many more unhoused individuals in our community who remain unserved. And whereas homelessness has steadily increased in North Dakota, including in Minot, due to a variety of social and economic factors, and the issues we face in Minot are not unique to our community, requiring consistent collaboration to create sustainable long-term solutions for those experiencing homelessness in our community. Now therefore do I, Mark Janser, Mayor of Minot, hereby proclaim November as Homelessness Awareness Month and encourage all Minot residents to support local agencies working to secure a safe environment for those experiencing homelessness in our community, and to recognize that every resident can play a role in reducing the homelessness in Minot by financially supporting appropriate agencies and volunteering to help organizations overcome the challenges surrounding homelessness. We have some folks from the Homeless Coalition here, and I'd like them to come forward, and I'll present this proclamation to you. So, continuing with the mayor's report, there are a number of activities and things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. I had a meeting regarding a property acquisition, at a parking authority meeting, was part of the North Plains Elementary Veterans Day event, did some closings at the title company for flood control property that we are purchasing, and participated in the visit from the Director of Water Resources from the state of North Dakota, as well as the 5th Bombing Quarterly Awards. And before I conclude tonight, I want to issue a challenge to my fellow council members, and I'd like Lieutenant Trevor to come up and tell us what we can do to help out with worthwhile activity in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council members, I know most of you already have seen that the Salvation Army has started its bell ringing season. So we just are trying to ask for your help this season. I know we're trying to raise about $60,000 through our Red Kettle campaign. And I know we could really use your help this season. And one way you can help is by going to our website of www.registertoring.com to really help sign up and help fill our sites that are so desperately needed and help raise our funds that we use to help many in our community. So just thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your help as we make this a good Christmas for those around us. Thank you.
Absolutely. I will tell you that it's actually a fun experience to spend a few hours ringing the bell by a kettle. There are various different locations in the community. You can pick the one that you're familiar with or that you like the best. There's also a statistic that I believe that donations go up by something like 70% when there's somebody there ringing the bell as opposed to when the kettle just sits there by itself. So whatever you can do to help out would be greatly appreciated, and it's a good cause to help with supporting the needy in our community. So we appreciate that. Are there any questions of me? Seeing none, we'll move on to the report section, and first up is the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. City manager's report is in your packet. If you have any questions. If no questions, I'd like to invite Mr. Ron Gailey. Ron is going to give us an out brief. Ron's from On Point Insights. His firm conducted our community survey this year, of which we had 1,208 responsible responses. So I'm going to hand it over to Ron, and he'll give us an out brief. And then from there, staff is going to further the examination. And as I've said before, this is one piece of evidence. This is one input with the many other pieces of input that we have to make strategic decisions and recommendations to council as we move forward. Ron, over to you, sir.
Perfect. You can see and hear me okay, I presume?
Yes.
Okay, let me just do a very quick brief introduction of myself and the company and a little bit about this project. So my history is I've always worked in industry. I worked for two major banks, Chase Bank and another large major bank as their research director, and then went to Coca-Cola as their research director responsible for all of Asia. So I've always helped executives of large companies make decisions. Not long ago, I started doing this for cities and towns. And so we're helping leaders of cities and towns prioritize and get a sense of what the priorities are. The survey that I'm going to show to you, or I'm going to say the dashboard of the results of the survey that I'm going to show you, are very intuitive to understand. Mostly I'm going to teach you right from the dashboard itself. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how it works. I plan to take 15 minutes, and then there's 5 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more if you want, for questions. But feel free to interrupt at any time while I'm going. I'm going to share my screen now. And yeah, I'll just share the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
And you can see the dashboard okay? All right. Well, look, so this is the dashboard. I'm going to first go down and look at the area of the participants. So we showed people a map and asked them to show us where they lived on the map. And as you see, we got 1,208 respondents. Most lived in Northwest Minot, although we have quite a few in Southeast Minot. And this seems to mirror pretty well what your population breakdown is, very close anyway. And so we feel pretty good about that. We also got pretty good feedback based on demographics, nearly even male and female, few more females, very even in age groups, although you do have some that are younger here. You have quite a few in the 30 to 39 age group, but you have quite a few in general. A lot of them have lived in Minot a long time. 51% have been here, but you do have quite a few represented in more recent move-ins, so that's good. Many of them do have children, 35%, but there's quite a few who no longer have children or don't have children in their homes. We did get 90% own or buying their home, and the rent or lease is about 10%. That's probably a little bit below your actual proportion of people in the population, but those who rent and lease always respond at a very low level. And so we struggle a bit with that. But in general, we came in, I think, with very good representation of the data. Let me talk about one thing. When we invited people to participate in the survey, we allowed 2 people to take it from the same household. So if you got an invitation and a husband took it and then the wife took it, we would allow that. But we would double check the IP address so that we only had 2 per household. And if it was more than 2, we very scrupulously checked to make sure that the responses were quite different and that the attitudes and behaviors and responses were different. Sometimes that's the case if you're in a care center or something, a library maybe. But we feel very strongly that we have a representative and also unduplicative group of people who took the survey. I'm going to jump. I'm not going to show you every question because I want to keep it to 15 minutes. I would like to show you this one though, direction of the city. In your opinion, has the direction of the city improved, stayed the same, or declined in the past few years, past 3 years? And you know, a lot of people think it's improved. Some people do think it's gotten worse. A lot of people think it stayed about the same. And so then we ask them, well, do you think we're going the right direction or the wrong direction? And 58% feel you're going the right direction. So if they say it stayed the same or it's improved, most of them think you're going the right direction. There's a few who say it stayed the same and we're going the wrong direction, but not very many of those. And so you're more likely to be going in the right direction than the wrong direction. And how do we compare to other cities? Are we much better or somewhat better? Or are we even somewhat worse or much worse? Do you know you have a little bit of a mix there? And people are not necessarily sure. Most people think you're about the same, although you do have a number who feel you're better. We looked at this by area, and Northeast Minot tends to be a little more negative. And other than that, you're pretty similar. Interestingly enough, we didn't get a lot who are in downtown Minot, but they're pretty positive. And but there is a little bit of a difference. So that Northeast Minot maybe could use a little affection as you think about the future. I'm going to show you a couple of things that will be useful for you to see. We asked a question. What are 2 or 3 things you find to be positive about the city? Well, we have the actual responses here. People would tell us what the positive things were, like a sense of community and the arts and leadership and so forth. But we grouped them into themes. And so these are the themes of some of the things people felt were positive about the city. And they love the fact that people are friendly and caring, and parks and recreation, and that the safety and crime rate is relatively positive with a low crime rate. And they also had some good things to say about the city services and the employees. So I thought that was really interesting, and you can see them here. And then you can go and read the actual comments. And if you want to read the comments about a theme, you can, there's a filter up here. And you can say, well, I would like to see what they had to say about the city services and the employees. And so then if you click on that, then all of these generally talk about the fact that it's a well-managed town and so forth. Now, we use AI and our overview to get these coded into themes. And so everything's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty good to help you look at something and go into more detail about that topic. Anyway, I thought I'd show you that. We also asked for areas for improvement. Again, this was a comment. 76% of the people did give a comment on where they felt there were some suggestions for improvement. And as you can see, road maintenance and infrastructure came out pretty high, as did property taxes. And then there are some people who feel, well, now we saw that the safe place to be and low crime was a positive, but for some people there's some concern there too. So you see some issues, and then shopping and retail options. Now I'll pause right here. Are there any questions before I move on to other things? I don't want to just quickly go or too fast. Any questions? Okay, I'll continue on, and feel free to interrupt. City and town benchmarks. We have done this survey, or one very similar to it, in about 50 cities. We picked some that were kind of similar in many regards to your own. We have city and town benchmarks here. And for the attributes that we talked about, would you refer the city to a friend? We didn't see that one, but your rating is a little bit lower. And compared to others, how are we? Are we somewhat or much better? Actually, compared to a lot of cities, your ratings are a bit lower. And so what that means on the left-hand side, these two, would you refer a friend and how do we do compared to others? These are, if you think about, these are kind of like the hand you've been dealt from years and years of people living in and people leading in Minot. But the real question might be, are we going the right direction and have things improved? And as you see that, so these are kind of longer term on the left, and on the right, they're more shorter term. Things have improved in the past 3 years. We're going the right direction. And as you can see here, there's some actually solid improvement, and you're doing well compared to a number of cities. And so maybe where you were is, some people feel a little bit more negative, but where you're going is actually positive. So I think some positive reflection on your good choices, and maybe a chance to continue improving and heading in the right direction. The most important part of the survey is perhaps this next section. We asked people to rate facilities, benefits, growth, safety and security, and city leadership, these 5 here. For each, we asked them to tell us what was most important to them. And then if it was important, we asked them to give us a rating. This is actually very important, because something can be important to a small portion of your population. Let's say condition of sidewalks, 15% said that was important to them. It doesn't mean it's not important to more, but there are other things that were more important. And so as you're considering your budget, as you're prioritizing, and as you have to choose between tough decisions, this can be helpful to focus on things that are important, and also where that your residents feel there's room to improve. And the flow of traffic on city streets is important and an area to improve. The snow removal in your neighborhood, this isn't on the major streets. On the major streets, it's pretty good. But in your neighborhood, there's some room to improve there. And the condition of the major streets is one where a lot of people feel that's important, but I think in general, you're doing pretty good on that one, maybe some room to improve. I want to show you one other feature of the dashboard before I leave this page. You can say, well, yes, but what do the older people think? What do the people who are 60 and older think? And so you can turn that on, and then now you have the results of those who are 60 and older. Or you could do the same thing with, what about moms with kids? And so you could do the females who have children in the household, and then you see what's important to the children. That's the snow removal in the neighborhood. So some priorities can differ depending on the audience, but if you ever wonder about different people, or maybe an area northeast or northwest or southwest, etc., you can do that and have a look at that neighborhood. Any questions before I move on? City benefits. Look over the city benefits. Which two are most important to you? A lot of people felt a great place to raise children was the most important thing that the city could focus on, and you're doing very well. Property maintenance and cleanliness, meaning code enforcement, is also pretty important, and a lot of people feel there's some room that could be done better. So I thought that was interesting. Growth and development, same thing. As we consider growth and development, where should the city devote more time and resources? Attracting and retaining quality businesses. And as I understand things in Minot, maybe it is retaining quality businesses. And that's very important. And you're doing better than some things, but a fair amount of room to improve. But also redevelopment of abandoned and underutilized property is also very important to people. So affordable housing is listed here as well. I know that's a very difficult one to handle, but maybe you could do some things in that space. But you can also see things down here, the commercial area revitalization. Very few people felt that revitalization was needed, and you're doing fair on that. And so you can make sure that you focus on the things that are most important. Safety and security is similar. We have what's most important as we think of safety and security, and feeling safe in the neighborhood and feeling safe at parks is important, and you're doing wonderfully well at that. A little bit of room to improve something, but you're doing really well at that. And then adequate neighborhood street lighting. Some people feel that's a focus. And some would just simply like to see more police in the neighborhood. So you can see the priorities there. Finally, we asked about city leadership. Looking over the city leadership, what's most important as we consider city leadership? Showing fiscal responsibility came out the highest, and being transparent. Very few people felt there was a need to ensure the staff provide excellent customer service, and that you're actually doing pretty well there. So you can look over these and get a handle on the city leadership functions or issues that people care about most. Now, the next slide I'm going to show you is the most important one, perhaps in the entire presentation. And we take city facilities, city benefits, growth and development, safety and security, and city leadership. Out of each of those, everyone has chosen their two most important. And so we show them the 10 items that they picked as most important. And we say, here are the 10 items you picked as most important. And then we say, which 4 are most important overall? And that gives you, out of near 50 attributes, what do people prioritize in general highest among all of your residents? And so you can say, well, what's in the top 5 that is being prioritized, or what's in the top 10 that is being prioritized, and how are we doing? And I want to show you on this page, we're showing the top 20 out of 50 attributes. So there's 30 more below this. And I just didn't show them to make this easy to read, but we're looking at the top 20. And so a great place to raise children is important, and you're doing really well, but it probably suggests you shouldn't take your eye off that, because it's important, and you should assure that it is considered in your decision making. Showing fiscal responsibility means they don't want you to spend a lot of money, for sure. And I'm sure as a city council, you look at that and go, well, yes, then how do we invest, right? But you live in a population where fiscal responsibility is highly important. And so they do care about that. But they do want to attract and retain quality businesses. And they would love a little bit more effort to remove snow in the neighborhood. And maybe we can see about improving the flow of traffic on city streets. So this is how you can use this to at least prioritize across a great many things that are important to your residents. And I'll pause here. Any comments or any thoughts?
I don't see any.
Oh, okay, we'll continue on. we asked, have you had contact with employees or departments? And if they had, we asked them to rate it. This might be useful to you to look to see where there might be some need to improve. A lot of people had contact. There are some who did not have any contact, but a lot of people had contact with your staff. And for the most part, it's relatively positive. This is sorted in order by the very good rating. And we probably should have sorted it by, no, I think this is pretty good. But anyway, there you go. You can see that and maybe some areas to improve. We also have, if they had contact with the department, we gave them a chance to make a comment. And so if you're, I'm going back a page, if you'd like to look into the comments, here we have animal control being negative, but I'm going to go down to city engineering, and that has a few more negative comments. So you can go here and you can do a filter on the top and you can say, I want to look at animal control. And these are the comments that people made about animal control. Or if you want to do one on engineering, you could do the same thing on engineering and city engineering. And so these are all the comments about city engineering. And these can be very enlightening. There's 32 of them here on this one. And if we look at the cemetery, there are 4. So some don't have very many comments. We didn't require a comment, but you can see what people said about the things that are here. I think you'll find that super useful. Finally, I'd like to just show, and I'll take like 4 more minutes and then wrap it up. We asked what they felt about the 3rd Street Bridge replacement. I mean, do they support using this tax dollars to address this? And they do. Like very few think that it's unimportant. And then we asked about, well, should we use incentives to attract quality business? We talked about the Magic Fund to support business growth, and they're relatively supportive of that. There are some people who are a little less so, but I think overall it's very important to a lot of your residents, and so that's good to know about. We next asked about the police and the fire station rehabilitation, and we found out what's important to those, and there was some pretty good importance. Now, we just introduced the 3rd Street, attracting quality businesses, the police department, and the fire station about those things. And all of them were very important, but you've got to prioritize. So we showed them all of them and asked them which one is most, should the city prioritize most? And as you can see, the 3rd Street replacement came in super strong. If you want to do some of these others, you probably can garner support for them, but not as much as for the 3rd Street replacement. And I think that's it. I mean, we have one other question here. Anything more to say, you know, and so you can read what people had to say here. And I'll stop sharing and I will listen and maybe answer some questions.
Any questions from the council? Alderman Blessum.
Thank you. Thanks, Ron, for the presentation. We appreciate it very much. Can you give us a sense for, you talked about, the number of responses that were coming from a specific IP address or from a specific home. Can you talk about how many were thrown out based on those criteria?
Not many. I think we threw out a dozen at most, but we did check very carefully.
Okay, so how do we deal with the fact that it's likely that we have people that took it multiple times?
No, it's unlikely. Well, they would have had to hop around on multiple IP addresses then to do it, right? And so that would be the way. So there were very few that did take it more than once. We only had, there weren't a lot that even took it from 2 IP addresses. There were maybe, I'd say 15 to 20 who took it from multiple IP addresses. There were a few who, from the same IP address, you got the same thing. And so we reviewed those and kept the one that was first. And we got rid of all of the ones that followed. But there weren't many. And my confidence in the fact that the data is clean and you don't have a lot of duplication is we reviewed every question and every comment and went through them in detail. And so we just didn't get that duplication at all.
So just to continue, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
So Ron, with that in mind then, so the way that I'm understanding it, the idea would be if you have two people from the same IP address and they have similar responses, that could be okay. It could be a spouse because we may have multiple people living there. If you have two people from completely different IP addresses, so as an example, if I took it on my home computer and then took it on my cell phone sitting in my office, those are going to look completely different. So then do you,
They
then
would,
do
they
you
would
go
be
through?
different IP addresses. Yeah, you're right. That is one thing that could have happened.
And so once
But now,
that
let me tell you
occurs,
what the other check is we sent them out on email to people, and we double checked for email duplication too. And so if they took it on two, we would have two emails, and we just didn't get many of those. We did get one or two, but not many.
Thank
So
you.
we capture the emails when it comes in. So email address and IP address are the two things we used.
So what percentage of the responses have an email address attached?
A huge percentage. I'd say it's over 60%, 70%.
Okay.
Because we did allow them come in from other sources, but your web page, for example, right? And when you make it available on a web page, of course anybody can come in, and so we had to be very careful.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could continue.
Go ahead.
So Ron, a different question then. Are there other analyses that you do? As an example, I think the page that we looked at with contact with employees, so employee contact. Do you do other statistical work to figure out, okay, does this data skew in some way based on who's taking the survey? So as an example, and again, I'm not saying that this is wrong, I'm just saying it's surprising to me that more than a quarter of our respondents had contact with library employees. That's fabulous. I mean, that's a very high percentage in my mind, because I would have
Yeah,
thought
that was during the past year was what we had asked on that question. Yeah.
Sure. So do you have other analysis that kind of digs into that a little bit to understand, what kind of skews are we getting and who actually took the survey and the reasoning behind why they may have taken it?
I can't say that we did anything to try to disqualify a lot of people unless they were duplicative.
No, and Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, that's not at all what I'm getting at. My point is that it can make a lot of sense for a survey like this for us to have responses if there's a group of people that care very much about the results. And so what I'm trying to figure out is when we look at this, that's just one type of response that stood out to me, that seems high. And so it makes me wonder, not the library necessarily, but were there groups of people where they made sure that they took it, or that it was sort of passed around?
Oh, that it wasn't a machine or a bot or something like that?
No, again, not that at all. Again, people that care very much about the results may have made sure that their friends did it because they want to make sure that it paints the picture that they're looking for.
Oh, I see. Do you know, I'm just trying to think in my mind. You asked a very fine question, and I don't know that I have a very fine answer, because at this point we didn't try to find out if they shared it with a friend or encourage a friend to go on to the website and take it.
And so, Mr. Mayor, if I could, and I guess for my colleagues too here, that we had a great response this year, right? I mean, part of what I want to make sure that I'm understanding is first of all, what did we do to help drive that? If we do these in the future, we probably want to do those same things again. I mean, I think
Right.
if we're looking for those kind of responses, I think we almost tripled the response rate, if I remember right.
From historical, but we actually invited a lot of people to take it by email and also by text messaging, and a lot of people took it.
Right. And so, yeah, and so I think that it's a good data set, and we're seeing a lot of information come through it. Most of it lines up with what we've seen in prior ones. I think there's a lot of information there that's kind of flowing through and kind of hits me in the gut the way that I would have expected it to be. But I do want to make sure that as we use this going forward, that we're thinking through, what the source of the data is. As the city manager mentioned, this is a set of data points. This is one perspective that's going to help us shape where we go from here forward. And, it's an important one. And the fact that we got a good response, I think, is a good sign. I think that shows some civic health to start with. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it's actually hard to game a survey when you get over 1,000 responses, because after about the first 300 or 400, things settle in pretty well, and you get like this is plus or minus 2 point whatever percent. It's really a really strong result for you.
Okay, any other questions for On Point Insights? Okay, well, I thank you for your presentation. Obviously, we have some information to absorb and respond to and dig into, so we will press on with that. And I guess if we have any further questions that come up, we'll have somebody be in contact.
I sure appreciate it. It was a pleasure working with your team. They were all wonderful. So you got a good city there.
All right, thank you very much. We appreciate that comment.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You
Ron.
bet.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right. City Manager, is there anything else from you?
No, I would just, a quick comment, just response to Alderman Blessum and to the staff. So number one, all the credit for maximizing the responses besides Ron and his team goes to Jennifer Clean in the Public Information Office. So, they're the ones that really push that out. And, yeah, great follow-up question too on the affinity groups, so that's something for us to consider next time. The thing that I will just tell everyone why we selected Ron and his team is they're different than we've used in the past. As you can see from this data, it gives us a level of fidelity that we haven't been given in the past in terms of demographics and where people live. In the past, we were trying to, work through that ourselves and figure it out. So this is really helpful, again, for, as we've said, it's a starting point to look into issues a little bit more further.
Mr. Mayor, if I could. City Manager, one thing that I forgot to ask and I meant to, so with this one, it's a new provider, so we've got a first round here. If we were to do subsequent rounds with the same provider now, will we get those comparisons versus last time? Because I think that was very powerful on prior surveys to be able to see, oh, this improved or this did not. I would hope that we would see that if we had a similar survey again.
Alderman Blessum, Mr. Mayor. So yes, exactly. But we're still not going to neglect the last two surveys, particularly 21 and 23. They're on the website as well. So where we can make comparative analyses, certainly we're going to. As some of the things jumped out at you, street conditions, not a new issue. Snow removal, not a new issue. Even though this time it was a little bit more fidelity because we got more about neighborhood snow removal than major streets. So we'll look into that. And then code enforcement, again, those were the top three last time. It looks like they're close to the top three this time, so more work to do. But that's you don't fix everything overnight, right? So we need to continue our emphasis on those areas as well. So more to follow.
Okay, thank you, City Manager. We will move on. Section 5 is the Planning Commission report. And item 5.1 is a public hearing. This is case number 2025-47, Rowan's second edition. This is the approval of a preliminary plat in alignment with the Planning Commission recommendation. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? This is a public hearing. Anyone for or against this plat? Anyone for or against? I see no one. What are the wishes of the council? Alderman Blessum.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing and accept the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to pass the Planning Commission's recommendation. Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Item 5.2 is another public hearing. This is case number 2025-48, the Whitetail Ridge Third Edition zoning map amendment and preliminary plat is recommended for approval as per the attachments by the Planning Commission. Anybody here to speak about this item? The Whitetail Ridge Third Edition. Anyone wish to speak about that? Seeing no one? Council, what are your wishes? Alderman Fuller,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and approve as recommended.
Second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Item 6 is a public hearing as well. This is a public hearing for final approval of case number M103 by Bradley Schimfessel for a 5-year property tax benefit for improvements on a property located at 1924 3rd Street Northwest. It's recommended for approval. Anyone here to speak about this? Come on forward. If you can kind of get the mic to,
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
yep,
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Bradley Schimfessel, so I'm the
Okay.
owner of this property. Just wanted to be here to help answer any questions, and yeah, just available for any questions. And I purchased the home in 2020 when I moved here. I was granted this application in July of 2023. I've invested about $51,000 of my own money into improving this house. The improvements include windows, doors, bathroom, plumbing, a lot of other improvements that aren't accounted for on here as well. All of these improvements will help protect the property's value, improves the neighborhood, and it aligns with the goals of the Renaissance program. And so just kindly ask for your consideration on granting me a modest tax break.
okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? I don't see any. Thank you, sir. Alderman Samuelson.
Thank you. I noticed on the application that you applied for it on August 2023,
It was granted.
or
in-
that's the estimated start date.
Okay.
And then the estimated completion date was September of 2023.
Yes.
And we're in 2025.
Yes, sir. So when I first applied, there was, I had some confusion on how much was needing to be spent. And I think what happened is as I spent some money, the value of the house increased because I did things like improving, putting new windows in. And I think at some point the home was reassessed and then that percentage mark moved it. So we kind of went back and forth with the Renaissance committee. And then when they gave me the new final, I didn't think I was going to be able to meet it because it all comes out of my personal savings. And then finally, when I re-spoke to the committee about a year later, I realized I could make a couple more improvements, had time to save more money, and then continue with installing, at that point, doors and making bathroom improvements as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any further questions of the applicant? Okay, sir, thanks. Appreciate you being here. Any, let's see, do we have a motion?
Nope.
Okay, we're still in a public hearing. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one, council, what are your wishes? Alderman Olson.
Thank you. I would move that we close the public hearing and approve the item with staff recommendations.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Hayes. Any discussion? Alderman Blessam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be clear, I'll vote yes. gentleman met the requirements of the program. Renaissance Zone Review Board reviewed it, and it's met all the requirements top to bottom. The main point that I'll make, that I think I've made multiple times, maybe not exactly this same way, but I can't understand at all how we even have the Renaissance Zone covering this property. It doesn't make any sense. We've got whole swaths of the city that could use help on fixing up their homes. I mean, I don't think anybody doubts that. But we've got swaths where, you happen to catch the edge of it and I guess you're in, and suddenly it's worth tens of thousands of dollars. We have to change this program. I mean, I don't even think that it necessarily starts here. I think it probably starts at the state. The Renaissance Zone program doesn't make sense the way it's laid out. And it's forcing us to do things that just are not passing the smell test for me. Again, nothing against the gentleman. He did what he was supposed to and used the program to fix up his house, and that's a good thing. But I don't see how we continue to let this happen long term.
Any other discussion? Alderman Samuelson.
So if I could, and maybe Brian, you can answer this question for me. On these applications, what is the time? Is there a time limit, or when are they supposed to be completed from the time they're approved?
Good evening, Mayor Janser, Alderman Samuelson. Under the rules of the program that were adopted in 2021, all applicants have 3 years to finish their project. They can also apply for a 1-year time extension from the Renaissance Zone Board, and after that expires, they can apply for another 1-year time extension from the City Council. In this situation, the applicant did not need a time extension. They completed the project within 3 years.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. I see no further discussion. Let's go ahead and cast our votes.
The motion passed 6-1 with dissent from Alderman Samuelson.
That takes us to section 7, which is the consent items. Do any of the aldermen have items in consent they wish to have pulled? Alderman Hayes.
7.15.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Blessam.
7.20.
Any others? Alderman Samuelson.
7.3.
Any others? Anybody in the audience have a consent item that they wish to have pulled for individual discussion? Otherwise, these items will be passed in a single motion, as is our procedure. Seeing none, what are your wishes on the remaining items? Alderman Blessam.
I'll move the remaining items, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Second by Alderman Fuller. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Fuller.
Not that I want to really get into it, but just one of the things on there, office furniture. I know we need desks, but spending almost $6,000 on desks for staff to me seems a little bit excessive.
Further discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote on the motion.
The motion passed unanimously.
All right, that brings us to item 7.3. This is a recommendation that the City Council approve an ordinance on second reading, which is ordinance number 6138. It's the second reading of that ordinance. What are your wishes?
Move approval.
There's a
Second.
motion Seconded by Alderman Fuller. Discussion. Did you pull that, Alderman Samuelson? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to make a amendment to this, and it is, I guess, under item 2 or section 20.6A, 29.2, which is the wireless communication device prohibited. I would like to put that back at $200.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded to amend. Discussion. Alderman Samuelson.
If I could, for me, I think this is a huge problem. With all the driving that I do, I see it every single day and several times a day. And I just don't believe we're going to try to correct any of that by lowering the fine for it.
Further discussion. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the amendment.
The motion passed unanimously.
So now we're back to the original as amended. Any further discussion? All right, if not, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Okay, that takes us to item 7.15. What are your wishes?
Move approval.
Moved by Alderman Olson,
Second.
second by Alderman Hayes. Who was it that pulled this?
I think Mr. Diedrichsen, if he can answer a couple of questions on this item. Okay, currently there's 48 single lots within the boundaries of this property that they want to remove from the interior. It's zoned R3C, which is a non-existent zone anymore, legacy zone, I think they call it, which is recommended that it goes to an R2 or an RM zoning. Currently, it's R3 is a single-family attached townhomes, which it looks like there's 4 buildings of 12 units. In this, it meets the criteria townhome, townhouse. I don't see how we can, unless I'm missing something, how we can remove the property lines. It specifically says in the definition of a townhouse, townhome, that each dwelling is located on its own lot. Is there anything that I'm missing on that?
Currently, we just treat the R3 district, the legacy districts, as RM, which is a medium density, or so it can be single family or multi-family dwellings. So it's a single owner that's purchased these. They intend to use them as rental properties and treat them similar to how you would treat an apartment building. So that's how they came to ask if they could just remove the property for tax simplification reasons, since it is a single owner property and they're treating it as a multi-family dwelling, not as individually owned townhomes. So these become rental properties.
Okay, would it make sense to change that zoning instead of, it's currently a R3C. Shouldn't it be changed to an RM or an R2 district prior to that? Because as townhomes right now, as what they're classified, you shouldn't be able to remove the property lines because definition is that they are on their own lots.
Mayor Jansen, Alderman Hayes, there is a conversion table in the land development ordinance that just allows us to treat certain legacy districts as a current district. So R3C is RM and under our current LDO. There's a conversion table at the right before our use table. There's a conversion table, and it essentially states R3C no longer exists, so now it just is RM. It doesn't require a rezoning. They were blanket rezoned essentially with the passing of the LDO.
Okay, so in the future, is the property owner with that zoning, can they convert those back to single townhome units?
Mayor Janser, Alderman Hayes, yes. RM district is our most permissive residential district. It allows everything from single-family dwellings, detached dwellings, all the way up to multiple unit apartment buildings. So it allows all residential uses.
Okay, so they can convert back. I'm just looking at it, that's $170,000 property taxes the way it stands versus the apartment building they own next door is $65,000. When it's converted that way, the property tax is gonna drop probably in half, I'm guessing. Which that's their prerogative, but, that was my one concern, is they're changing the use of it, from standalone lots, getting rid of the interior property lines, to achieve a property tax reduction. But the way I read it, it's clear that a townhome has to be on its own lot. A single-family dwelling in a row of at least 3, which it is, units, in which each unit has its own front and rear access to outside. It has. No unit is located over another, which it is. Each dwelling is located on a separate lot. And that's the R3C zoning, and it's not converted to an RM automatically, is it?
Mayor Janser, Alderman Hayes, yes. When it became a legacy district,
Okay.
and with the passing of the new LDO in 2021 and that conversion table, it essentially says these legacy districts will now be treated as this district and going forward. It doesn't require a zone change. It's just simply treated as an RM, and an RM lets you decide whether you're going to do single family or if you're going to treat it as a multifamily. Both are allowed uses. So they're just redefining the property from single family attached dwellings to a multifamily attached dwelling.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to stop anything. I just want to make sure it's done in the proper order, that if it needs a zone change, that they go through that first.
It does not require a
okay.
zone change with that conversion table passed in the LDO.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for the city planner? Okay, seeing none. Any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
We do.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed 6-1 with dissent from Alderman Hayes.
All right. That takes us to item 7.20, 7.20. What are your wishes?
I'll move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. This is for the use of general fund reserves for a patrol vehicle replacement fit-up. Any discussion? Alderman Blessam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe for the finance director, Dave, a couple of these caught my eye, especially coming out of the PD, and I just kind of wanted your thoughts. It's a little interesting to me. I realize this is all one bucket in the general fund, and I get all that. But why are we not seeing things with this that say, oh, we reallocated this part of the budget over? Are we just in that time of year where we don't have much to reallocate? I would have thought with the savings we're seeing from PD, we would have had dollars in that budget. And just to be clear, the way that I look at this is, yes, it's all general fund, it's all the same dollars, but if we leave the allocations in the other budget buckets, those can still be spent while this also gets spent, and now we're on top of it. This was an easy item to do that on because we need to replace it. We need to take care of it because it was involved in an accident. But, so can you comment on that a little bit and why we're seeing this way?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Blessam, this one is a little bit unique from some of the other items that are on the agenda, in that this had an insurance claim. So we did collect from the insurance company, I believe it was around $28,000 for the car that was destroyed. So that money goes into general fund revenues. So to replace this car, all of that money has to come from reserves or some appropriation, because the appropriation did not exist. One of the options would be to reduce other line items accordingly to accommodate that. So that would have been an option, and it could have been an option with any of the budget adjustments that are in front of you tonight. One of the things is there's still a lot of uncertainty. Even though we're in mid-November, we still essentially have 2 full months yet because of the way the billing cycles work on a lot of things. So it can result in budget amendments where we come back and ask for a budget amendment to correct the budget amendment that was done before. So ultimately, at the end of the year, if those appropriations are not spent, they revert to general fund reserves. So they would essentially replace those dollars that we are taking from reserves now. Now, I'll caveat that with the condition that we have to manage those budgets in order to accommodate that. Otherwise, exactly what you're saying is they can spend those other dollars too, and then we don't realize the budget savings to replenish those reserves.
Thanks, Dave.
Alderman Fuller.
Dave, is it possible when some of these budget amendments come to us like this and they aren't being reallocated from one line item to another like that, is it possible for us to get with the packet each month a report that says year-to-date actual versus year-to-date projected? So we can see where they're at, like if they're above or beyond, and we can have those discussions of if we need to move it from a line item?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Fuller, that is something we're working on, and I did spend some time here last Saturday, considerable amount of time working on that. However, it's not as clear as you would think, just because there's a lot of things in progress that we don't necessarily have in the system yet. And so I have no way to forecast what's out there if I don't know about it. And things don't always track evenly. For example, when I look at our year-to-date revenues, it looks like we are tracking right about exactly where we should be. However, there are a number of those items that we collect the vast majority of that revenue very early in the year. So that tilts that percentage considerably, because we've already collected almost all of that revenue. So even though we have 2 months left to go in the year, we should be way ahead of where our revenue forecasts are if we base it on a percentage of the year. So there are some things that don't match up exactly. And again, the biggest thing is not knowing what's out there in the system that's already been committed to, that we don't have any idea that it exists yet.
And fair enough, but like with some of the other things that you mentioned, like things that are taking a long time to actually come in or do certain things, isn't it possible to say, hey, you know what? This is what we'd projected year to date. This is where we're at. We know there's a couple things out there still, so we're not sure if we actually have the room or not. I mean, like, just so we have a general discussion item, or is that, I mean, do you think it's just not feasible?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Fuller, that is definitely something that we need to improve at. So, for example, long lead items, if we order a big piece of equipment and we know that it's going to take 6 months to get, we should have that in our system, because they need to go through the approval process and everything. So it should be entered, it should encumber funds, it should update our budget, what's available. And the issue is there's a lot of things out there that we just don't have in the system to do that math for us.
Any other questions for the finance director? Thank you, David. Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Alderman Blessam.
Thank you. So, Tom, for me, when we're seeing these budget amendments come through, I think throughout the year, we got to be doing everything we can to reallocate, right? I mean, that's got to be our general way of going about things. And I think when we don't see a real allocation of budgeted dollars, that's where we should have an explanation for why. Because I think for me, what gets to be a bit of a black hole is we authorize new spending out of reserves while still being able to spend the already authorized dollars that don't really require an approval. And, you know, on bigger things, that's not going to happen because most of that comes in front of us anyway. But if you've got a few things that were planned and you just continue along with it, we need the mentality that we're going to adjust what we were allocated because circumstances required it. And there's always a good case to be made to us if the circumstances are different. So, you know, I think we want that to be our main practice, is to reallocate those funds rather than from reserves.
Alderman Blessum, Mayor Janser, and to your point, Alderman Fuller, I agree, I concur. Dave and I have had these discussions, so you know, it gets back to fiscal responsibility, which also gets back to transparency, right? So we owe that, and we'll continue to work on that.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, please vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
That completes the consent agenda item section. We will move on to our action items, which is section 8. And item 8.1 is approval of the North Dakota Federal Aid Project solicitations for 2027 through 2030. What are your wishes?
Move approval.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Hayes. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Blessum.
if I could, I would move to divide this item into 3 parts.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to divide. Any discussion of that?
Mr. Mayor, I just think it's important. These are, you know, there's a lot of money flowing through on these items, and I think there are different schools of thought by line item. So I think it's important for us to talk them through.
Okay, any further discussion on dividing? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on the motion.
The motion passed unanimously.
Okay, we'll take these one at a time then. Item 1 is the 2028 Transportation Alternative SRTS pedestrian ramp replacements.
Move approval.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Hayes. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Alderman Blessum.
You know, over the last 2 years, I guess, or 1.5 years, I've talked about the Safe Routes to School program. In this particular case, as you take a look at the work that's to be done, I don't understand it. This seems very, very clear to me that this is a circumstance where we're saying, look, there is federal dollars out there. Let's go get them and then figure out what to do with it. We're taking 2 corridors between Longfellow and the other school, West. Sorry, Bel Air. Yes, between Longfellow and Bel Air, along 5th Avenue and 7th Avenue. Sidewalks throughout the entire area. No issues with brand new sidewalks like we saw along 17th Avenue Southwest or in Southeast Minot, where we're adding sidewalks. We're doing all these things. In this particular case, if you stand at the corner of 5th Avenue and 20th Avenue, or 20th Street right now, all 4 corners already have ADA ramps. Now, maybe they don't fit exactly what the 25 requirements are for ADA ramps, but they're all there. We're replacing all of these ramps, and again, it's about a $1.1 million project, almost $500,000 from local funds. Yes, we can go get the money. In my mind, yes, we can go invent places to spend it, and that's what we're doing. This isn't free money, folks. This is our taxes. This is federal tax that's doing this. And even if you believe that it's printed money at the federal level, it's inflationary. It's driving pricing upward when we print money. And so I'll just say again, I do not support these projects. You know, I understand, I read through the federal highway program requirements, and I understand why we have to continue to make progress, and that makes sense. But I think we do a heck of a job with that already when our teams put together plans as we go down a street that we fix the curb and gutter and sidewalk and ramps and everything as we go. I can't see allocating this money, another $500,000 of local funds to fix ramps that are already there. Yes, there would be a few new ramps. Yes, it's going to provide a little bit more accessibility, but this gets back to what we saw in the survey, where this is all about priority. In a world where we don't have other priorities, we could prioritize fixing ramps that are already there. We're not in that world right now. So I would urge my colleagues to vote no on this.
Further discussion? Alderman Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that pedestrians are a minority in this community, but they're an important minority, and they need to have access getting from point A to point B. And there is a reason that improvements need to be made. There's a reason that it has been recommended to us. And I think we owe it to our pedestrian public to offer them the best situation possible. And so I will be voting in favor of it.
Further discussion? Alderman Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I just got a quick question. Do we know if any of these sidewalks that we're going to tear up, we forced a citizen in this city to fix in the last 3 to 5 years? Because I would think if we did that and we're going to try and now redo it, we should probably give them back their money.
City engineer.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Fuller, so these would be at the corners, at the pedestrian ramps, just the corners. And generally speaking, we, the city, will take on that responsibility because they're a little more involved than just your average sidewalk. In new developments, we have the developers put those in, but on a rehab, the city will take on that cost.
City engineer, so what is can you give any insight into, okay, there are currently ramps at some or all of these corners. What's the difference between what's there now and what would be there in terms of functionality, or what's the upgrade, I guess, is the question.
Mr. Mayor, at some of these intersections, what's happening is you might see the yellow dome, truncated domes we call them. That's the tactile surface. If you're vision impaired, you can feel that, so you know to stop at a corner. So that ramp might have that surface, but it might not meet the slope that is mandated. Sometimes things shift over the years. Sometimes it might not have been put in correctly, or there was different requirements back then as to how those are constructed. So now when we do these federal projects, we're obligated to make sure that it meets the most current version of the ADA laws, which is, we use PROAG, it's called. It's how we construct improvements out in the right-of-way. So when we do like a mill and overlay, as a for instance, the city's obligated then to go and install or replace curb ramps at every corner. So being that this neighborhood had a high density of curb ramps, at some point in the future when we would do a project on 5th and 7th Avenue, we, the city, would be obligated to put these in. So when staff looked at this, they said, well, this would be a good use of federal funds to take and hopefully replace those. So someday when we go and mill and overlay the roadway, that's not a cost we would have on the city project. We'd be able just to go in and do the mill and overlay.
Okay. Further discussion? Further questions for the city engineer?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Fuller.
Thank you. So just hearing you said that, so this is, do we know if any of the ramps, I mean, I know they probably don't meet 2025 spec, but are any of them in like bad shape, or, I mean, is there an issue with them, or is this just the area we decided to go to?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Fuller, most of these locations at these intersections do not have a ramp, right? It's just the normal high back curb return. There's a handful, I think, on 20th Street, like Alderman Blessum said. We did a project there several years ago. I think some of those have some slope issues we need to correct. And the rest of the ramps or the sidewalks, they're all put in the 1950s and 60s as that area developed. And so when we're trying to prioritize all these areas across town, I mean, there's thousands of ramps eventually we have to replace. We're trying to look for areas that have a high density, they're in a developed neighborhood, You're looking to find areas that have good pedestrian tractors, so schools, churches, things where you have a lot of people walk around in neighborhoods. Those are what we would try to target first because they would serve the most public. So that's why we picked this neighborhood.
Further questions, or Alderman Samuelson?
Thank you. Just so I guess I'm clear, what qualifies or why, if we did a mill and overlay, would we have to redo the corners, the ramps? Is it because of federal dollars or what? That I didn't understand that point.
Certainly. So, Mr. Mayor and Alderman Samuelson, there's certain improvements, whether they're funded federally or with local funds, that we might do on a roadway that requires us to upgrade pedestrian facilities. So any kind of surfacing where you're adding material onto the roadway, so that would include a mill and overlay, that would include a microsurface. Patching and chip seals are not included in that. So when we do a chip seal project, we don't have to replace ramps en masse. But if we would do a mill and overlay or a micro, we would. If we do a reconstruction, so anytime we remove and replace the road, like we're going to do in downtown, that would require all the ramps be upgraded as well. So it depends on the improvement, not on the type of funding. But obviously on this federal project, because there's federal funds, they all have to meet ADA.
So just one more clarification. As far as like a mill and overlay, if we went on here, that we'd have to replace those. Is that a city rule?
As a federal rule. Federal.
Whether they're giving us money or not?
That's correct.
Alderman Fuller?
Lance, are these roads down here, 7th and 5th, are they on our radar for future mill and overlay or repair in the next 3 to 5 years?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Fuller, I do not believe so. I think we were just in there here a few years ago and did a chip seal. I do know on 20th, we just milled and overlaid that. Well, not just. It's probably been 7 years ago now. So probably in a few years, that one might be due for an overlay again. Our roads in the valley typically last a little bit longer. They have a little better soils. But those roads are also, 60 years old. So,
Any other questions for the city engineer? Thank you, Lance. Further discussion? Alderman Olson?
Thank you. And just a comment. I think we're trying to make decisions tonight that don't need to be made. Essentially, what we're being asked to do is allow them to apply. We're not determining that that is exactly how we're going to allocate these dollars. This is far enough out in the future that there will be a council at some point that has to make those decisions. But tonight, we're just being asked to give them permission to apply.
Further discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on this item.
The motion passed 4-3 with dissent from Blessum, Fuller, and Samuelson.
We'll then move on to the second item under this, which is the 2029 Urban Grant Program, 3rd Street Southeast Reconstruction, Segment 2. What are your wishes?
Move approval.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Pittner. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Alderman Blessum.
So this is an incredibly big project. And Lance, I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit, but here we're talking everything from partway up the hill on 3rd Street all the way down almost essentially to the railroad tracks, just on the south side of it, right? And here we're talking about many, many, many millions of dollars, 11 million, something like that for the entire project. As we saw earlier tonight, again, in the survey results, and I think I've said it up here as well, one of the most important things we can do as a government is provide streets. I mean, it's important to the people. It's something you can't just do as a homeowner. We have to do it for them. So can you talk about this project a little bit, Lance? Just we're going to spend a lot of money here. And so in this case, having that help from the federal side can help us get through that.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Blessum, you're correct. And I just wanted to put in a plug for our public input meeting on this project this Thursday in this room, 6:30 to 8:30. So as part of the project, we're going to talk about the whole corridor because we want to environmentally clear it. And then we apply for grant funding for segment 1, which we have received. And then segment 2 would be under this item here. So that would be the remaining piece that's shown on the screen. 3rd Street obviously is one of our primary north-south corridors, receives a lot of traffic. If you look at the traffic data, there's about, I think it's right now around 6,000, 6,500 cars a day that travel portions of this segment. 20 years from now, that'll be closer to 8,500. So there's a lot of volume that takes this roadway. The utilities date back to Minot's original utility construction in about 1908, 1910. So they're well beyond their useful life. We do have some drainage problems that occur mainly because these pipes are old and they're undersized. We want to clean some of that up. The corridor was last reconstructed with pavement in about 1985. So we've gotten 40 years out of the pavement. That's a lot to ask. You're starting to see that now as panels start to shatter on us. We just go in there and patch them because we know a future project would be coming, whether it's in 29 or sometime later if council chooses. So it's important for us to try to keep these arterial roads in good condition. So that's why the request is in front of you. You want to try to complete this. This one's a little bit unique in the funding source because typically on arterial roadways, we would program these through a program called the Urban Roads Program. Several years ago, the governor carved out a specific allocation of federal funds that the state receives. DOT created a program to help urban cores replace their federal aid infrastructure. So in our case, we replaced most of that with the downtown reconstruction a few years before that program was created. We only have a couple streets that would fit the criteria for that program, and 3rd Street's one of them. So we're trying to take advantage of that program wherever we can because after we rebuild 3rd Street, we're probably done with that program.
Other questions for the city engineer? Okay. Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome.
Discussion by the council. Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
That takes us to the 3rd project, a 2029 or 2030 highway safety improvement grant, which is Burdick Expressway pedestrian signals. What are your wishes?
Move approval.
It's moved,
Second.
seconded by Alderman Samuelson. Any discussion? Alderman Blessum.
Thank you. So Lance or Stefan, one of you, whoever would like to take it, what is this the answer, I guess, in this area? I think we're talking about $600,000 for what amounts to lighting above the streetway there. I think we all know during the fair, it's certainly an issue. So can you talk about what the strategy is here to, I guess, to help with pedestrian traffic across there?
Members of council, Alderman Blessum, the intent of this project is really to replace the flashing beacons that really on, was it 20th Street and really east of the signal there at 8th Avenue, and to update them really to current standards. That's a mass roadway to kind of get the flashing beacon really to touch each lane What we got now is just a dull flasher on each side. I like it. It gives warning to really vehicles on a heavy pedestrian area. But we want to kind of update that to current standards. The big cost with this is really you're putting in half a signal for that area to get that mast arm out. So.
If I can continue.
Go ahead.
So Stefan, with that, again, this one, it just gives me heartburn because it feels like it's a fix for 13 days a year or whatever it is. I guess, how do you look at it? We know that signals are very expensive overall. If let's put it this way, let's say that we had $1 million worth of signaling that we could do around the city right now, is this where you'd put it?
To be honest, it probably not. We are making signal improvements all throughout the city with
Yeah.
Ready. We did look at doing this one in 26 with city funds, but we felt that it was an opportunity to match or utilize highway safety improvement funds so that the city portion of these improvements would be closer to that $100,000 mark versus the whole $800,000.
All right, thank you.
Further discussion.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could just continue real quick.
Go ahead.
So again, on this one, I don't, where I have a hard time on some of these is when we have a project, we need to decide if a project's the right thing to do before we ever worry about funding. If something is important and meets the criteria and meets the hierarchy of what our priorities are, then it's important and we go get it done. And then we figure out where the funding comes from. To me, we're doing the opposite. This is the second one of the three. The middle one makes a lot of sense to me, but this one, it's not the exact same thing as safe routes, but it's along those lines again where, hey, the money's available, so let's do a project because it's there. I would rather see us identify projects that we feel meet the criteria, and then once they do, man, we fight to find the funding and we get it done.
Alderman Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, to Alderman Blessum's point, I mean, we're going to take, what, $557,000 of the people's money and spend it because we can get federal tax dollars to pay for the rest. I'm not necessarily sure that's the way we should be designing or figuring out how to go about projects. So I probably won't be voting for this one either.
Further discussion. Alderman Pittner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually had a chance to remove the stoplight that wasn't warranted at that intersection previously. We've made a commitment to making this a safe intersection of Minot. We've committed to leaving turn signals that wouldn't be, correct me if I'm wrong, eligible for funding, cost share funding in the future because of 13 days a year. So I think if this council has made the commitment to make this a safe spot for even if it's 13 days a year, I'm gonna continue that rhetoric. And again, just to be clear, I voted against keeping the signals there. But if we're gonna make it safe, let's make it safe. It might be my kids that are walking across that going to a concert, so I'll vote to approve it.
Further discussion. Alderman Samuelson.
Thank you. I will support this one. This is very close to where I live. I've walked over to the fairgrounds for other things other than the fair. It isn't just those, it's the Huss Fest, racing. There are other things that are done out there, so it's not just for the fair. And it is a horrible place with the traffic that's out there, and for some reason they think it's a drag strip at times. So I will support this. This has been needed for a long time. I don't know if this is necessarily the cure for that, but it needs to be safer, and it really should have been done a long time ago.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed 5-2, dissent from Blessum and Fuller.
That takes us to item 8.2, which is a street division number F750, bid selection and budget amendment. What are your wishes?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Samuelson. Discussion. Seeing none, we're apparently ready to vote. Let's do that.
The motion passed unanimously.
That takes us to item 8.3, which is case number F1-16, I guess FI, I'm sorry, -16. This is a request by 5 and 2 Ventures, LLC, for a facade improvement forgivable loan in the amount of $100,000 for a property located at 13 First Street Southeast. What are your wishes? Moved by Alderman Pittner, second by Alderman Olson. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Blessam.
Just one thing with it, as I've said before, they meet the criteria, it's moving through the process, that's all fine. I was kind of struck on this building because I think it looks fine. I think the interesting part is that it can be sort of sent back to the sort of historical look of it, which I know is one part of the program, but I think that's only a requirement of the program that's taken into account, right? Like you can't just redo it and modernize it and all that. But it almost looks like this one, that's the main focus of it, because it's actually in decent shape, at least from the photos. So I don't know if there's anything to that, but it's something for us to be thinking about as we look at the adjustments in the wind down of this program.
Further discussion. Alderman Samuelson.
Thank you. Again, it's not the project, it's the program. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. However you look at it, it's a big giveaway, and a couple times I've taken some heat for this because they meet all the criteria of it. But I will remind everybody to look in the rules or on the facade improvement program that the city council cannot approve one of these for any reason. So I just wanted to make that point. So I won't support it.
Further discussion. Seeing none, let us proceed to vote.
The motion passed 6-1 with dissent from Alderman Samuelson.
That takes us to item 8.4, which is a notice of default on TIF agreement for the Trax Maverick. It's recommended that the city council authorize city staff to proceed with recovery efforts if the default is not cured within the allotted time. What are your wishes?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded, moved by Alderman Olson, seconded by Alderman Hayes. City Finance Director, go ahead and talk about this if you would, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to add a little other information. We did already send out a notice of default to the developer at 2 different addresses. One of them was picked up, the other one was returned, not deliverable. The one that was picked up was delivered on September 26th. The development agreement provides a 30-day notice to cure, so the time frame has already run on that. Contact with the city staff by representatives of the development, they've indicated that they don't intend to move forward with construction of any of the other buildings and presumably the public improvements. So those were both, there's a building number 2 that was included in phase 1 as well as the public improvements, so they haven't essentially held up their end of the bargain. So what we're looking for right now is we'd like to move forward with the recovery efforts to recover the funds that they've received in the tax abatement under the agreement. So that's what we're looking for. The city assessor would add this as an omitted assessment, and then they would be responsible for the property taxes for the 2 prior years.
City Finance Director, is there an effect of this on whoever is looking to complete the project? Or is this specifically to the original, I think it was Epic was the organization that got the TIF?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this would fall on the owners of the building, which is the ownership is its own LLC. So they would be responsible for the payment of the taxes. And how this was supposed to work is they would receive an abatement of the taxes under the TIF agreement that would offset the cost of the construction of the public improvements. And because they haven't moved forward with the construction of the public improvements, they aren't entitled to the tax abatement. So that's essentially what we're doing is we're going back to correct that. One of the alternatives the council could elect to do is give them additional time to correct this. However, the representations of the developer to city staff is that they're not intending to move forward. There is a time constraint on being able to add the omitted assessments. So the window is closing on one of those years. So that's why we want to move forward as quickly as possible. That's the most effective way for us to recover this tax revenue.
Alderman Fuller.
Dave, you said you guys have been in contact to some degree with the owners of the building?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Fuller, that's correct. Mr. Billingsley had reached out to.
So have
some
they
of the
indicated, obviously we told them we're going to put $350,000 in assessments back on their property. Did they indicate that they were planning to pay them, or what's their thought process here?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Fuller, if they don't pay them, then that would be handled accordingly with what happens when they become delinquent. The county would foreclose on the property.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Blessum.
Good. Thanks, Dave. I just want to make sure I understand how this all lays out there. So the building itself is on one plot, but was the entire development part of the TIF? Essentially this is going to be placed on all of those properties? Is that the way to think of it? It's not just where that building is right now?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Blessum, the original agreement was a master agreement for the entire development. So phase one was supposed to be 2 buildings. It would be the Maverick, which is the one that is currently constructed or mostly finished. And then another building that would be immediately to the north of that on the north side of the public improvements. So that was phase one. Then there was phase two, which included some additional buildings and the other half of the plaza area. And then there was phase three, which were additional buildings and a parking ramp, I believe. So right now, they've constructed one of the 2 contemplated buildings in phase one and none of the public improvements. And the tax abatement under the TIF was to recover the cost of the construction of the public improvements. So it's very limited under state law of what they can use those proceeds for. So it would have been acquisition, improvement, construction of the public improvements. So because they haven't moved forward with the construction of the plaza, which was the public improvement in this case, our argument is that they weren't entitled to that tax abatement.
And so, Mr. Mayor, if I could, so just to be clear, I think I remember Harold talking about this a little bit, that this, in his mind, this TIF was sort of the better version, because there's no outlay. We didn't spend anything. It's an abatement. We were giving up what ought to have come in from a normal development that was going on, and saying, look, as an agreement to get it done, we're going to give this up, and it's going to help you get it done. So is that still all tracking? We're trying to recoup what the property tax should have been because they failed under the agreement.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Blessum, I think that is correct. And maybe another way of looking at this is a mechanism to finance those public improvements. So as a mechanism to make it more palatable for the developer to add these amenities, in this case, a public plaza where public events could be held, concerts, those types of things, to make it a venue that the entire community could use. So that was the incentive, and that was what was considered the public improvement in this case. Because they haven't moved forward with that, there's nothing to recover the cost of. And that was part of the agreement as well, that at the end of the construction, they had to provide receipts of the cost that they had spent to construct those public improvements. And obviously, there isn't any construction, so we wouldn't anticipate any receipts to cover that.
Is So the tax bill was presumably based on a valuation of the property to come up with, but so far as I know, that building's never been open and there's nothing there, or it isn't even complete, I guess. Is that valuation based number real, or how does that work?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, how the TIF works is you're looking at the difference in the pre-construction value or the pre-TIF value to what it's worth at some point in the future. So right now, what Mr. Kamarowski has done is assess the building in its current state and assigned a value to it. So whatever the baseline value was in the TIF and the difference between that and the assessed value for today would be what would be added to the tax rolls. So he had to go back and calculate that assessment for 2024 and 2025, and then calculate the tax that would be due on each year.
Okay. Okay. Alderman Olson.
Just a procedural question, since my motion was to include all the recommendation, but some of that has already started, do I need to amend my motion to just proceed with the recovery efforts? Is that more appropriate?
Mr. Mayor, Alderwoman Olson, and I apologize, I should have made this a lot more clear in the memo. I think the key item is moving forward with the collection efforts. There could be some other things, like I said, the council could move to extend the cure period. I don't know that is going to change the outcome of this at all, adding additional time, but that would be an alternative. I think the idea here is that they have defaulted on the agreement. They haven't noticed or provided notice that they intend to cure it. So we want to move forward with the collection efforts.
Okay, thank you.
City Clerk.
And I will state that this was part of one of the amendments to the agenda. Dave had kind of updated staff on that. So the recommended action would be to authorize city staff to proceed with recovery efforts if the default is not cured within the allotted time.
And that's my motion.
Okay. All right. Everybody clear on that?
And I would
Very good.
contend that they have not cured the default at this point.
Okay. All right. Any further questions for the finance director? Thank you. Any discussion by the council? Seeing none, it appears we're prepared to vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
That takes us to item 8.5, which is a budget amendment from general fund cash reserves to the police department for furniture and equipment and repair, maintenance and repair agreements for expansion of the patrol fleet. What are your wishes?
Move approval.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Fuller. What are your discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Alderman Blessam.
I think I think we're headed in the right direction. One of the things I think we want to be a little bit careful about here is that this is a bit of an inflection point in how we're handling our vehicles, our staff, having them go home, hot swapping less vehicles. Those are all cost tough. We're setting a direction here that is not just straightforward. So, as I've talked to the chief about this, I'm in support. I think it makes sense. It maybe makes us rethink some of the things around the facility a little bit and how we look at that. But at the same time, I do like the idea of our officers being able to respond more quickly to what they're doing and to be able to to move to where we need to have them as quickly as they can. So I think it's the right direction, but we have to keep these things in mind all the time because we set a new trajectory for that cost structure, and we're going to live with that out in the future.
Further discussion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Item 8.6 has been removed from the agenda. Item 8.7 is the Highlands at North Hill 8th Edition Planned Unit Development Amendment. What are your wishes? Alderman Pittner.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve accepting a bond to perform installation of walking path required by the PUD by November 1st of 2026 to allow for issuance of building permits in 2025.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Pittner.
So yeah, just the backstory on this. I was approached by one of the developers with the dilemma that they were trying to install or build a model home yet this year and allow for selections and pre-solds over the winter. However, until the PUD was satisfied, and one of the items from a previous developer was that this development was to have a walking path installed and agreed to. That was not performed. And with going up against the colder weather and contractors' availability, it wasn't going to be done. So I thought this was a compromise by allowing a bond or essentially escrowing the funds until it could be completed. This would allow a building permit to be issued. So this to me was a compromise to allow some housing to be built in Minot.
And so just to clarify the motion, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Pittner, so we allow the building permits to be pulled through November 1st of next year, and then the bond would have to be in place through November 1st.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Attorney. The reason I said November 1st, I don't want us to get to the point of next spring, whether, if we say, March 1st, if we have a wet spring or there's building delays or things like that. I just wanted to allow a window so we never had a developer in front of us in the springtime saying, hey, I couldn't get somebody in there, I need an extension. So I just figured we'd kind of encapsulate the entire building season, and that bond would be in place to protect against that being done.
Is it also true then that once the trail is constructed, that it's satisfied? What we're requiring is satisfied. If they get it done by 1st of August, then obviously they don't have to continue the bond or whatever it is. Is that what's intended?
I think the bond condition would be satisfied if the path is installed. That would be the only hang up with it.
Yeah, just to be clear. Alderman Fuller, did you have a comment?
Mr. Mayor, yes, thank you. Jennifer, if you could put that picture up that I'd sent you earlier today. So I want everybody to look at this. Now, what happens 10, 15 years ago when we set up a development agreement? I get it. Those were the requirements then. Those are the things that we thought were necessary. I got what you see here, and you can't see it, but down here at the bottom, nobody was ever sure if the back portion of this subdivision would ever get done. And so that red walking path that you see right up there, that's what they wanted installed because nobody was sure if it was ever going to get built. Now, all of this was planned and done before the school bond was put into place, so nobody knew there was going to be a school there. I guess I get it. And Dan Falconer helped me out with this today, so Dan, if you're watching or listening, thank you. I want to point out to everybody, the white paths that I outlined are the sidewalks in this subdivision. There's 8,222 feet of sidewalk in this subdivision, and we're holding it up for that red line right there. It's 385 feet of sidewalk that nobody wants. The city said we won't maintain, the Park District said we won't maintain, and the homeowners, the 5 of them around there, said we aren't going to maintain it. So we're forcing this developer to build a sidewalk that goes nowhere, that nobody's going to maintain. We want to know from my colleagues, we want to know what's wrong with development, why developers and builders aren't doing things in the city of Minot. This is it right here. That whole subdivision is connected to everything with your normal sidewalks up there. There's nobody that's going to take care of that red line. Now, I get that there has to be rules, and when the PUD was put into place, they made concessions on the smaller lot sizes. I get that. I understand that. And had that rest of that subdivision not been built, I can understand why there would be a need for that walkway. But having 8,222 feet of sidewalk in a subdivision, can somebody please explain to me why we need that? It seems to me that we're our own worst enemy as far as the city goes for development and growth. We saw in the survey earlier, one of the biggest things that people want to see is businesses come to town and growth in Minot. Do you want to know why we're not seeing businesses? When people say the city of Minot is hard to work with, builders say it, developers say it, businesses say it. This is why, guys. This right here is absurd. What we decided 15 years ago is completely different today and what we need and our requirements are. So I'm not going to vote for this motion. I actually have a different motion for the city to basically disregard this condition of the developer agreement. Now, you're going to hear from our city attorney that there is a small amount of risk there. And when I say small, it's very small. This is a $20,000 to $35,000 walking path. So as the city attorney pointed out to me, we could get sued in the future. Okay, let's play that game. If we're going to get sued in the future, it's going to be for that we didn't put the walking path in. I don't see that anybody ever does that. I mean, that walking path, now you got to think about when it'll be used too. People say, oh, the kids will walk to school. There's no school in the summer. And in the winter, that walking path is going to be covered with snow and everything else, so nobody's going to use it. So I guess my question is, why as a community or a city are we so rigid and inflexible? We want our developers to come here. We want our builders to build here. I mean, the developers here in the audience tonight, one of our city council members has been a portion or a party to this, and it's frustrating for everybody. If we want our developers and our builders to expand our community and build here, we have to take a small amount of risk, guys. We can't say, hey, you know what? You said 14 years ago that you'd do that, so we're going to hold you to it today. It makes absolute zero sense. I don't know. It just, to me, this isn't the right answer. I understand where Paul's coming from. I think it was a nice option, but we as a council have the ability to tell our city to just disregard that, and they can move forward. To me, that's an easier, cleaner option. So that's where I'll be. I'll be a no on the original motion.
Further discussion. Alderman Pittner.
I don't disagree, right, with some of that 15 years ago. But the fact of the matter is that was agreed to. There was concessions that the city gave to allow that development to happen in the way that it did, and these were the deliverables. I think if we unilaterally circumvent the process in place, it's a horrible precedent to set. Then what we just talked about, a developer, in our previous item, not following through on what they committed to do for the city. So again, I just think that's a horrible process. And you circumvent the individuals who bought a home in that development that was advertised with walking paths. There's plenty of active listings that have been listed within the MLS to have paths. Now, is this the end all be all if this path doesn't go in? No, but there's a process to get rid of it. The developer can go and get the signatures, and I understand we're going to say it's not doable or it can't happen. Then let's look at that process. Let's not write our own rules up at the dais. That's good old boy politics. That's pulling a favor for a buddy that says, don't worry about it. You don't have to do that. I won't be a party to that. And again, if we don't want the process of having to get notarized signatures, let's look at the process. Let's look at, maybe we can go about this in a different way. If a developer requests amending a development agreement in the PUD, maybe there's 2 public hearings and all parties are notified via certified mail at the cost of the developer. It's advertised in the local paper for 2 weeks prior to the hearing. I'm not against finding a way to not have this path in there, but just unilaterally doing it at the council at our whim, I think is wrong.
Mr. Mayor.
And just one more point. No one is saying the city of Minot is hard to do business with. I watched the Dakotan interview with the Minot Association of Builders director, and actually people are saying its staff are great. Staff are really easy to work with. So again, I don't want that rhetoric out in the ether just because that's how someone up here feels. That's not the reality of it. Staff are helping people. They might not get the answers they want. And can we always improve? Yes, absolutely. We can always work on customer service. We can always get better. But staff actually have bent over backwards for this development. Staff could have absolutely said, guess what? We're not going to answer your questions. Go hire Houston Engineering. Go hire Ackerman Estevold. You go through the process with them and not with city staff, not on taxpayer dollars helping the developer. So again, I'm not going to let staff get thrown under the bus for this. I'm not going to play good old boy politics. There's a process in place. If we don't like the process, let's look at that process. Let's not just pull favors.
Point of order. He doesn't get to sit there and say, I'm playing good old boy politics. That's exactly what he's insinuating. I am not friends with either one of these developers, and I am not playing good old boy politics. So if you want to play games over there, Paul, let's play games. But I'm sitting here.
Okay,
There's a threat to play games? You want me to get Yahtzee out?
Mayor, my recommendation is the alderman, please direct all the comments to you as the chair of the meeting, as opposed to directing them towards each other.
fair enough. Alderman Fuller.
Thank you. So first of all, I am not friends with either one of these developers, and I am not playing good old boy politics. What I'm doing is trying to move our city forward, and when I say that the city is tough to do business with, I'm not insinuating the employees. Our city as a whole, our policies, our codes, our building stuff. We have an alderman right here who's a builder. Is the city hard to do business with, Mike?
No, not at all.
When you're trying to build and get your permits done and everything like that, in this instance?
I've had no issues.
Okay, fair enough. But again, this whole thing to me, and Alderman Pittner had suggested to go and get the signatures, the right way to do it to amend the contract. The city was the one who requested to have all the landowners sign the contract back when they made them re-sign it. Now, that's fine, but nobody told them to amend it. You're going to have to go get 100+ signatures and have them all notarized. I mean, I asked the city attorney the other day when we were sitting discussing it, why don't we send the city staff out there to do it? And she indicated to me that that's not a good use of the city staff's time. I'm sure the developers and the builders and the other people would tell you, they don't have time to do that every night after work to try and get somebody lined up to go meet them at a bank or someplace to get a notarized signature. I mean, again, where I talk about inflexibility, that demand right there to try and help them is an unrealistic demand that cannot be met. And so their option is to either pay the money and do the sidewalk that nobody's going to take care of, or just stop building. I don't know. To me, the common sense thing here, 8,222 linear feet of sidewalk that connects everything out there. That sidewalk that puts in, whether it was agreed to in the PUD or not, makes no difference in that community whatsoever. And I bet it won't be used. And all 4 or 5 of the homeowners that it touches their property, they have all indicated in emails that they don't want it there. So.
Further discussion. Alderman Pittner.
Mr. Mayor, again, the dilemma that was brought up to me from the developer was that we want to get a model home built. This motion allows that to happen. If we want to look at the process on how to amend a developer agreement, we have until November 1st of next year to go through that process to see if there's a way to mitigate this issue of the sidewalk. This was agreed to, it's in there. To me, to go outside of procedure to amend that is not right. And again, that's why I will include directing staff to look at this process, because this is not the only stalled development that's within the city of Minot that has attachments to it, that has things that are attached to it that may not fit our community at this point. If we improve the process, the next time something like this pops up, that one also might not require 100 signatures to get. There may be an easier process that still allows citizens and residents that have purchased within this development to have their voices be heard and not just unilaterally silenced at a council meeting.
City Attorney.
So Mayor Janser, members of the council, one thing I just wanted to read here is the conflict of interest law. It's found in 4404-22 of the North Dakota Century Code, and it states that a person acting in a legislative, quasi-legislative, judicial, or quasi-judicial capacity for a political subdivision of the state that has a direct and substantial personal or pecuniary interest in a matter before that board, council, commission, other body has to disclose that fact to the body of which that person's a member, and they may not participate or vote on that particular matter without the consent of a majority, just a simple majority, of the rest of the body. So something I just wanted to bring before your consideration before anyone participates in a vote this matter. If you are planning on recusing yourself from the vote, to just disclose that matter to the board, indicate whether you plan to participate or not participate in that vote. And then if we do need to proceed to something, a question on that matter of whether or not that person should participate, it takes a simple majority of the council to overrule that conflict of interest issue. So something for the council to consider, if there are any members that are going to recuse themselves from the vote, just advise the board of the same.
Alderman Hayes.
I have a direct relationship to this project, as I have the majority of the building there. It started in 2012, dead development. 2022, we took on building homes in there. By end of 2026, that development will be 100%. There will be 120 plus homes built in there, besides the original homes that were already existing. Because I do have a direct relationship financially, and my stepson's the one doing the building, I'll abstain from voting.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman Hayes. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Blessam.
Thank you. This one's tough for me, because as I looked through it and came to understand essentially the picture that's up on the board, these are the hard ones for the council, because I look at this and I go, I don't know of anybody that actually wants this built. And we're forcing the developers to do it based on an old contract that really nobody would really agree to today. And nobody wants to maintain it, and nobody wants to pay for it when it's got to be replaced in, 15, 20, 30 years, whatever it's going to be when it deteriorates. I'm sensitive what Paul's saying, though. I mean, if you got a contract there, what's the next developer going to want us to waive? I mean, I understand that fully. And so I guess where my mind goes with this is we need as often as we can to apply good common sense and to what we're trying to do. The only thing that's swaying me away from pushing hard to try to fix this tonight so it doesn't have to be built is that we actually have the time before it's built to try to solve it. That's it. Outside of that, I'd be pushing pretty hard to say, why are we pushing so hard to get something built there isn't a single person wants? So tonight, I'm going to vote yes on this motion to provide the time. But did we get that into the motion that this will be studied now and we're going to move forward? Is that in there? Did we get a second to agree?
I did want the second to agree to
Who's
that, to
who's
direct
the second
staff
on this?
to look
Alderman
into the
Samuelson, is that you? And you agree to that?
You want me to repeat what I'm directing staff to look into?
I would, yeah, please.
Just for clarification, this is an alternative, and I want staff to vet this out if this is possible, if there's anything that should be added or changed. That in order to change a developer's agreement, it's required to hold 2 public hearings. All affected parties are notified via certified mail. The public hearings are to be advertised 2 weeks prior to each meeting. And this will be at the cost of the developer. And just to explain that, I understand, is it possible to go out and get 100 signatures? Sure. You probably have to go get notarized yourself or have a lot of friends that are notaries and just hoof around the neighborhood. I get that. Is it an undue burden? Is it burdensome? Absolutely. Nobody wants to spend their nights and weekends away from their families, knocking on people's doors, explaining about the red line. However, this still gives proper notice to anyone in the development to come and have their voices be heard. And again, I think that's the least we can do for people in this case. And it gives the developer a clearer, more streamlined and effective path to amending some of these agreements. So that's my reasoning.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could continue then. So as I was saying, I think that that's the key to this whole thing, because what I want to walk away from tonight is having a developer that's able to move forward once they meet the putting the bond in place. But that unless there's somebody that steps up and sort of proves to everybody that this path is in the interest of the development and the public as a whole, that it never get built. That's, to me, that's the logical answer here that I think we're all coming to. And short of solving that tonight and getting that all done, which is, there's a leap there that's involved. I might be able to get there, but I think the time involved allowing us to actually have the discussion and put that in place may solve some of the future ones as well, which is another important part of this. So I can get behind that, because I think we need to make sure that we're providing sort of the direction to the developer community that, hey, we're willing to work through these things. Let's get them done, but we still got to have some semblance of order to what we're doing.
Alderman Samuelson.
Thank you. I'm going to support this motion tonight too, and I agree with a lot of what Mike said. I believe that this is one of the reasons that, and I believe that the city of Minot is hard to work with. And I'm going to clarify that. It is not the staff. The staff works under the rules that the city council has put forward. And they try their best to work within that to help. And I know that staff does their very best to do that and always have. What we've done as city council, and I say we because I am part of the city council now, I wasn't when some of this stuff was put out, but here we have a path that we haven't even really talked about, is you have to have a 10-foot variance on each side of that path. And then you've got to plant a tree every 10 feet, or 10 feet on both sides of that. And if you look at that, that's in people's yards. So you're going to make them plant the developer's going to plant the trees, but they have to maintain it and they have to have that tree there because it's in the development agreement. So I agree with Paul when he says if there's other agreements out there that are hindering this, we should be fixing it. And we should be fixing it. We should be fixing it before we decide to put a committee together to give a bunch of tax breaks to try to get development in. That's what we need to fix, and it's pretty common sense. And I think at times Doug and his crew have looked at things like that and bring it forward. And when we see stuff like that, we need to fix it. We need to make it easier. And I go back and I look, and this started over 20 years ago, where Minot got hard to work with. And it's the rules. It's not the people. It's the rules. And we need to look at the rules and fix it so we can move forward.
Further discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
City Manager.
just a quick question. Brian, Doug, is there anything else that is value-added input to this issue to provide at this point?
Mayor Janser, members of the council, all I can really add is that this is not how development agreements are put together now. Hard stop deadline type things. We don't want to create that. Construction delays happen in every single project always. If there is one thing that is consistently happening in every development ever in Minot is construction delays. So we would never incorporate a hard stop deadline, like a certain date beyond which building permits would not be issued. It would always be either an extension or continued extensions through the community development director and or allowing for these type of bonding situations. And that is standard procedure now. We use it for sidewalks, we use it for landscaping, we use it for all of those elements of a development that could be early winter. We can't do concrete well, or it's a blacktop path and you can't do that in the winter. Bonding is always used as an element of the type of agreements now. So this is an older agreement. current procedure would not ever incorporate a hard stop on a development because that's just creating arrested developments. And our goal is to keep developments moving forwards. Always, we have enough arrested developments that we're constantly doing these modifications and variances and all these other things to keep moving. And so we've gotten away from those hard stops in these development agreements and gone to more flexible rules. Either the planning commission or this council would have the ability to keep it moving forward through what Alderman Pittner is recommending tonight by allowing them to do a bond or something like that. That would be really all I would have to add to the conversation is that this is an outdated method of doing development agreements. If there's any other questions that I could clarify for you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any further discussion? We've had good discussion. I see no more discussion, so let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed 5-1 with dissent from Alderman Fuller and a reminder that Alderman Hayes abstained.
All right. Our next section is personal appearances. If you wish, if you wish to speak during personal appearances, we ask, or actually it's a requirement that you fill out a speaker card. They're located over there where Michaela has just gone to. However, before we go to that, we've been at things for over 2 hours. We're going to take a 5-minute break here at the chair's discretion, and we'll see you all back here in 5 minutes. If we can have everybody come back to order, please. All right, we're at section 9 on the agenda, which is personal appearances.
Oh, sorry.
Our first speaker is Billy Gunderson.
Mayor Janser, council members. When leaders care more about economic development and production than they do about the community they serve, we all suffer. Perhaps even more damaging is when concerns of a problem is how it looks rather than the responsibility and the accountability of the problem for it to be fixed. On November 5th, on the City of Minot Facebook page, Transit Superintendent Brian Harinka addressed the buses exceeding their miles and being maintained to a high standard, and that the transit provides reliable services. This is a dishonest disservice to the bus drivers, passengers, and community. This is an unfair burden put on the bus drivers operating the buses to keep our community safe. It's a needed service for our community. Last week, 3 times when I used the transit buses, the ADA ramp did not work, and the buses did not have the tool to lift the ramp manually. The deaf emission smell inside of the bus was very strong and caused the children to cough. It is concerning that the only ones that have access to the bus cameras are the transit superintendent and the foreman. It is a true disservice to the community when its leaders do not exercise dignity and integrity, being diligently transparent with the truth, all of it. As council asks the community to be involved with transparency from its leaders, our community cannot effectively address concerns to fight for our community and be a place that they want to live, to stay. The population of Minot is declining. Why is how it looks more important than the problem itself? Is it because the community would be concerned? It should be. We now have the weakest link in the flood wall next to Roosevelt Park. Some might just say it's fixed. The Japanese fix dishes with gold to highlight the cracks rather than concealing them. This is no different than the ADA requirements in Minot or for the Souris River Joint Board that Ryan Ackerman is the administrator of. The Souris River Joint Board closed off a section of the path north of the river after I addressed ADA requirements not being met, where it had always been accessible to those that could traverse it. There are now barriers for everyone. Signs are posted and a fishing dock. Where there were closed sidewalk signs sufficient for construction, the Souris River Joint Board made it official with signs. I was asked by Houston Engineering if the path should be closed completely. I said no. You cannot understand the impact of how broken I felt being asked that question. If because I cannot, should it be closed completely? The Souris River Joint Board said that it was not fiscally responsible or logical to complete the path. This from the representatives that are able-bodied, can drive, and have access to a gym, and likely don't live in the community they are tearing apart to need it. To temporarily complete the path was a small drop in the bucket for an $80 for $80 million received for 2025 through 2027, and the hundreds of millions for the project. Everyone who does not give a damn about the ADA says and does the same thing, that it's not logical or fiscally responsible. The city dam restoration project with the city changed the project for the decision of the path to not be completed, a poor decision for the community, prioritizing economic development and production over our community. It is a shame when we lose community for it, as it is tearing our city in half. The Souris River Joint Board Chair, David Ashley, said he does not work for the city. This was the response after I addressed the Souris River Joint Board, saying the Souris River Joint Board serves our community. It is a shame and a disappointment that this is his perspective and perception. The Souris River Joint Board flood wall is to protect our community. Again, we need a third-party contractor to oversee ADA requirements on planning and inspections. The previous city manager, Harold Stewart, addressed how to get the right people to the table to build in Minot, and how there is all this free money in Minot and it's not growing. The question should be, why do people not want to build and grow here? The good old boys politics. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak during public appearances, personal appearances? Seeing no one, we will move on. Section 10 is miscellaneous and discussion items. The topic for tonight under that category is the alcohol ordinance comprehensive update. So this is a informational item. The relevant text was attached to the item on the website. And again, this is a draft, and it is for perusal and discussion, as well as feedback and direction from the council. So are there any comments? Or Alderman Fuller?
One thing I didn't see in there, and I just wanted to make sure, I like how you guys condensed down the licenses. Are we going to add the off-sale license as one of the ones, or as a new one to the existing ones that we can condense down?
We can do that if the council would like to direct us to add the same. So Mayor Janser and members of the council, I believe that came up as several points of conversation throughout this whole process, but we haven't received formal direction from the council to add it. So before we made space for it in the current draft, we'd like to receive just direction that that's a route the council would like us to take.
Can I continue?
Alderman Fuller.
Thank you. Then I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to add the off-sale licenses as one of the licenses under our ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded to add off-sale licenses under the code or ordinance. Any discussion on that motion?
I think, if I could, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Alderman Blessam.
Thank you. Just real briefly, I think that's an important portion of this discussion, because I don't think we're going to understand fully the demand that's out there for licenses, or I guess kind of how the right sizing of this world will occur until we do this. While we have, a full service bar, and, I won't name any of them out of just courtesy, but a full service bar with the exact same license as Target's liquor store, that makes no sense whatsoever. I think we would all agree that just makes no sense. And so I think until we can get that straightened out, get those licenses out from under the liquor stores essentially, that really don't need them to serve over a bar, we're not going to understand the demand, and we're also not going to have this all worked out. And, I think we've heard multiple times now that, there's multiple licenses for sale. Well, my perspective on that is that there's multiple bars for sale. And that's a totally different question than if a license clean and of it on its own comes up for sale right now. And I think one path to get there to truly understand that and right-size everything is to get the off-sale license in place.
Alderman Hayes. Oh, sorry.
You're okay.
Okay. We'll come back to you, City Attorney.
I know with adding the
Hayes.
off sale, I was for that, but what that's going to do, I think in the future, is create like your grocery stores, your Cashwise, your Marketplace, your Targets that paid for those licenses. All they need is an off sale license. So now they've spent all that money for that license. Now, if we add in an off sale, then they just will turn their licenses back in and get the cheaper off sale license. So I see some problems coming down the road with that, with the stores that sell just strictly off sale and not to the public drinking, you might say.
Mr. Mayor, if I could on that.
Alderman Blessam.
So I think that's exactly right. I think the one thing, though, that through the actions that the council has taken is that we've said that license that they hold right this moment is worth something. And so they'll have a decision to make. The marketplaces, the Targets, they'll have to decide, do I want to hold on to that? Is that an asset that I want for the future? Or do I want to sell that to someone in the community that might want it because I can convert over and just get an off-sale license at a much more reasonable price? And that, to me, is the essence of why this change matters. Because it frees up those licenses and right-sizes the entire system all at once and hopefully leads us down a path going forward that makes a lot more sense than it has.
Alderman Pittner.
Does staff need direction on a price point, or is that something you guys will look to other communities and bring recommendations?
Oh, City Attorney, I forgot you.
No, you're okay. Mayor Janser and Alderman Pittner, that was something I was going to raise just with Alderman Hayes' comments about this being a more reasonable license. So license fees vary across the state. Some of them are really expensive and some of them are what people would consider to be more reasonable. So that is something that the council is going to have to weigh and consider kind of as we move forward to adopting the fee resolution, which is part of the change of the latest draft of the ordinance. So as the fees are set, they're going to be established through the fee resolution. A sample is attached to this agenda of what we envision those fees potentially being. We just included the current fees in there now, but if the council wants to raise, lower those, you'll have to set a new fee for the off-sale license and determine what a reasonable rate for that looks like. Staff could compile some information about what fees look like across the state. I think we've compiled that once before, but we could refresh it and make sure that that's the most current, and we could provide that to the council again at a later date for it to consider. But fees is something that the council is going to have to take into consideration. The ordinance would go into effect, what we're contemplating is in 2027. So this isn't an immediate thing that needs to be decided. There's some time to kind of mull all of this over, but that's definitely something that the council is going to have to review. In regard to the off-sale license, one thing that I've added to the other licenses is a samples requirement. I would propose adding that to this draft as well, allowing liquor stores to provide a sample of something that they have as well. I'll include that in the draft, but if that's something that the council would like us to remove, we could do that as a later date. So that would be comparable to the language in the rest of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you, City Attorney. Further discussion? Okay, so this is going to come back to us then as a recommendation with some information about pricing and so forth.
Yes, so what I envision, Mayor Janser and members of the council as being the next steps here. So as of present, I haven't received a lot of feedback from anyone outside of the council as to what they would like this ordinance to look like. And so unless that changes, we'll do that research on fees and bring that back to the city council, and we'll queue it up for first reading at the next or a subsequent council meeting. If it turns out that we have a lot of discussion that comes of this, changes, requests to change information, it may be second meeting in December, possibly first of the year. But given the effective date of 2017 or 2027, we do have some time to look at this. So it would have to be passed on first reading and second reading. So we'd have at the very least 2 more city council meetings to review and discuss changes to this proposed ordinance. But we'd like to get some of the more substantive issues out of the way before we bring it back and make a lot of substantive changes during the approvals before the council.
City Attorney, one other thought I was wondering about is, so let's say there's a retail off-sale establishment that has what today is the full liquor license. It seems to me that they would be able to, under this scenario, and again, depending on what the pricing structure turns out to be, they would potentially be able to hold on to that full license, if you want to call it that, and switch to a new off-sale license. Is that contemplated, or?
As in, they would have 2 of the city's licenses. Mayor Janser and I saw the city clerk raised her hand. So what that would require is there to be 2 premises, and you can't have 2 premises under 2 different licenses. So those license holders would have to make a decision as to what type of license they would want to hold. If they'd like to sell their retail liquor license or just deliver it back to the city, if that's the choice that they make, they could do that, and then apply and then receive the off-sale license. But I'm not envisioning a forced sale under the current scheme to require them to relinquish their full liquor license. They'd have the option to retain that, or they could purchase the off-sale license.
Okay,
from the
thank you.
city.
City Clerk, did you have a comment, or?
Yeah, I was also gonna mention that it's part of our ordinances that as a license holder, you have to sell product under that license within 365 days. So if a license holder, not only does it have to have a premise, so you can't have 2 premises on one location, but you also have to have it as an active license within 365 days.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and council, I know that we have been here a long time too. Jennifer Kleen did do a really nice PowerPoint. I can just add it to the agenda if you would like. But it does highlight some of the major changes. And I can add it to the agenda, and we don't have to go through it tonight if you don't want to, but if you would like to. It does kind of highlight some of the major areas that we changed.
How many slides you got?
Like 8.
Well, let's flash through them.
Before we do that, probably call the question on the motion that's on the floor.
Oh, okay. Question's been called. Let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passed unanimously.
Okay, now,
Okay. Like I said, Jennifer Kleen did an excellent job on this, so I appreciate it.
okay, here we go. You're going to run us through this?
Yeah, real
Michaela?
fast, I promise.
Very good.
Okay. I don't have to go through this point by point. This is just a timeline of how we kind of got to where we are today. On October 20th, that was the last one on there saying that, we're retaining the liquor license cap. Staff wanted to bring it back tonight as just a miscellaneous and discussion item, give the public, the council, a little more time to digest, and make any, directions for that. Section 5.1, we did a lot of work on definitions. One of the ones that we were directed to do was to add the seating capacity back to 150 under the supper club license, and an update to the restaurant where it sells food in a kitchen with at least an indoor grill. That's kind of a new item on there. As you all see, we had 18 liquor licenses before. We're down to 12 with the new direction. They'll more than likely come back with 13. Some of the new requirements proposed, section 5-17, mandatory alcohol server training, that will kind of become part of a process that will be new for staff and for the license holders. Some of the license holders might require it now, but now we'll be asking for it at renewals, trying to make sure that everyone's got it, that works as an employee of a bar. So that's a new change, section 5-21. in the application requirements, F, G, and H talk about tax delinquencies. There's personal property tax delinquency, if it's like a hotel lodging tax delinquencies. There's also business tax delinquency, I believe. But so that's a new change. Section 5-22, at the license application time, the deadline, it's proposed to have the renewals completed by November 1st. And so that's new, whereas now, I think this year renewals started the last week in October. So it's gonna be a new change for license holders, new change for staff, so I wanted to make sure that was highlighted. One thing to think about too is inspections. So when we talk about the inspections portion of the renewals, there's a point in there where it talks about, applicants' consent to allow the following to inspect for compliance. That would be law enforcement, building, fire, or other designees. For the other portions, B and C, our building department has asked to be removed from those, in the sense that building and fire tend to look for the same things at renewal time, so it might just make the application renewal process a little bit easier. But if there were to be a complaint or an issue on the premises, they would still be covered to go in because they're still under point A. Something else that is new, 5-31 would be license transfers. Normally it just comes to council with like a simple attachment saying this person's buying this license. If now there could be a fee attached to it, a non-refundable application fee. So that's something new. When did I cover all? Oh, yes, not last, because there's still a ton more that changed, but these are the big ones. Penalties, so license penalties before are on the side in 5-32. There were 5 violations. This one proposes, the after 5-45 proposes 6 violations, but not only having 6 violations, some of them have fines attached to them. So it's not only maybe closing for consecutive days, but there's also a fine that the city would charge with that violation. 5-46 also have violations on mandatory alcohol server training. So that would be a new process as well. So I think that. Oh yeah, and yep, sorry, I thought we were done. We're not. Special event permits, some changes in here. It says in our ordinances 7 days prior. So that would, on the resolution, that's saying a $25 fee. Late applications, so that would be within the 7 days, would have a $75 fee, but no application will get approved if it's received within 24 hours of the event. Also, something to think about is the ordinance in the new proposal is written where if it is a similarly situated event or substantially similar event, you can get it for more than 1 day, or for more than just the event, you can have it for up to 14 days. If it's multiple different types of event, it would be by event permit. So like that event for the wedding would be permitted separately from the bridal shower that might only have 25 people at it. So things to look at, changes to highlight, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further comment or discussion from the council on the draft update of the alcohol ordinance? Alderman Samuelson.
I would just like to say I think staff has done a really good job for what we have here. And if there's any comments that the public has for this, we need to reach out to staff or one of your council members and see what else is out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would echo that. I see some establishment owners here in the audience tonight. Talk to us, get a hold of us if you have specific things in this. It is a, it is a multi-page document, and there's a number of things in there. So, it pays to look at it, and if there are things that you're concerned about that affect your establishment or might affect people in the future, this is a great time. That's why we're not acting on this tonight. We are taking the time to let it be out in the wild, so to speak, and let people have a good, long, hard look at it. So this is meant to be an opportunity. Okay, with that, and seeing nothing else, we will move on. Item 11 is liaison reports. Alderman, it'll start with Alderman Hayes.
I had the pleasure of being appointed by the mayor to the liaison committee for the city, county, school district, and parks department. That was about 3 weeks ago or so, and the main discussion was in regards to property taxes more at the state level than or kind of crossed over state level and local. So that was pretty much the topic for that meeting. Also, I was another event I went to was I was able or asked to judge in the Alliance of Nonprofits, which is kind of a group of all the nonprofits in Minot, to vote on or select 3 of each category of 5 categories for Volunteer of the Year. And their awards banquet is this Wednesday at the Sleep Inn to announce who the Volunteers of the Year are. And other than that, that was pretty much it, other than participating in the Backpack Buddies with a few of us there. It's the first time I'd hands-on. I've donated, but hands-on, and it's quite an event. It's something that everybody ought to do. It's a real eye-opener and a good program. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Fuller.
Yeah, I had the LEPC meeting at the beginning of the month, kind of a shorter meeting because the federal government was shut down and they didn't have a lot to talk about. The library board meeting last week, I was unable to attend, but I know we elected or hired a new library director, Josh, over there. And so we had an executive session earlier to make a commitment for salary and benefits and everything else. And then next week is the Ward County Planning Commission. So.
Alderman Samuelson.
The Ward County Planning Commission, since last updates, and then I was able to attend my first meeting since being appointed to the Child Care Committee, and then also attended the employee appreciation that our city manager talked about at our last meeting, and it was well attended and very enjoyable. It was a good thing, and it's going to be good moving forward.
Very well. My items were covered in my mayor's report. Alderman Pittner.
Yes, I attended the Economic Development RFP selection committee with Alderman Blessum, members of the chamber, Visit Minot, as well as Community Development Director Billingsley. I believe we selected and are negotiating or have negotiated a contract. Excited about what that vendor will provide above and beyond what some of the other possibilities were. So that is my report.
Yeah.
Alderman Blessum.
And I'll just grab onto that as well. I was a part of that process. One of the nice things about that was one of the things that some of it came out of the Economic Development Committee work that we did. And I'm really pleased with that process. I think Brian's done a great job, and we're headed down the right path to provide a central data source for city economic development, as well as our chamber partners, as well as Visit Minot. And to have a common contract there for something that I do believe the city can be a part of and be an important piece of the puzzle. So I'm pleased to see that. I had to step out of a portion of that to go to another meeting, which was the transit development plan. We had our second steering committee meeting, and so that process is moving forward. One of the highlights there was we got a presentation from our consultant on that about sort of comparison cities. And one of those cities that Brian Harinka had suggested was Paducah, Kentucky. And we saw some data from Paducah that really makes me excited about what the possibilities might be, because their economics look better. They're a very similar city. They just met the same federal designation about the same time we did. And so I think that there's some possibilities for some things that we can learn there. Beyond that, I've got Commission on Aging this week, so I'll have an update next time on any discussion there.
Thank you very much, Alderman Olson.
Thank you. Well, Alderman Hayes and Alderman Samuelson took a little bit of my thunder, but I do want to highlight the filling of the Backpack Buddies bags. You were there that evening as well, Mayor Janser. 586 students on a weekly basis receive a bag of food on Friday or the last day of the school week to help fill some meal gaps. And as a former educator, I know how important those granola bars and those goldfish and that applesauce is to kids who are going home to a situation where there just is not a good food source. So it was fulfilling to be part of that. But certainly I recommend to people to go to the Souris Valley United Way website and make a donation, because that money goes a long ways towards keeping kids healthy, keeping them interested in school, being able to learn. Those are all good things. On the 22nd, I met with Chief Fry just to get an update on the police department, and there's our picture at doing the Backpack Buddies. Got an update on the police department from Chief Fry. That was good. It's so nice to see, after having a few years of some not so great reports, to see that things are on the right track. And so thank you to everyone at the PD. That afternoon, I also participated in the Souris Basin Loan Review Committee meeting. On the 23rd, participated in the Central Dakota MPO meeting. We actually met in council chambers that afternoon to allow for public comment. However, we did not get any, but we were here just in case there was someone that wanted to speak to us. As Alderman Hayes mentioned, liaison committee meeting, a lot of discussion on our budgets, how we fit in with the caps, what we are looking for going forward. Had a legislator that was there, kind of heard some. He was able to hear some concerns from us, and so it was a good conversation. That evening, I attended the Souris Basin Planning Council Region 2 annual meeting. City Manager Joyce was there. That was a really interesting meeting. If you want to have kind of a better idea of the pulse of what's happening with small business owners, with local grocers, what's happening at the Commerce Department, all of these things, there were a bunch of panel discussions, and was glad to be there. We learned a lot, and there's a lot of good things happening. So, continue to watch on reports from there. And then the Committee on Child Care met on the 7th, and what we spent essentially our whole meeting doing was reviewing a survey that has gone live today. It is on the City of Minot website. It has been sent out to member investors through MAC EDC. And so Jennifer has put the slide together for the survey. This is intended for families that have children under the age of 6, or families or couples that are looking to have children in the next couple of years. We really want to get a good idea of our child care situation. We've heard a lot of anecdotal situations. We want to hear factually what our situation is. So hopefully people will take about 10 minutes and take the survey. It's only open for 10 days, so we do want to encourage people to take it as soon as possible. And that's everything to report on.
Alrighty, thank you very much. I'll add one thing, and that is that the MPO meeting, which is usually the fourth week, is actually next week because of the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. So if you're interested in that, it's on Thursday at 4:30, I believe, here in City Hall. I believe that takes us to item 12.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We are adjourned.